now we're going to think about, instead of a parallel shift, a rotation, right? We're going to do some percentage change. We'll figure out, is it this way or is it this way? We'll figure that out as we go. But now I'm going to switch gears from thinking about a shift of the curve, which is going to be a scenario where we are changing the marginal benefit or the marginal cost, to a situation where we're thinking about taxes or subsidies. And in that case, we don't have this green parallelogram anymore. In this case, we shifted the demand curve up because we were saying we are getting more value. The product itself has gotten better. And if we think about something like a subsidy, where we give you an extra dollar for every unit we buy, you're more willing to buy, but the product hasn't gotten any better. The hamburger is just as satisfying, the beer is just as refreshing, the cordless drill has the same battery life, but with that subsidy, you are just willing to pay more money because you know that you will get that money back, but fundamentally it's your value that matters. The subsidy in that case is going to have a distorting effect, right? It's going to make you look like you value the product more than you actually do, but really what's going on is you're shifting the cost onto taxpayers. Not to say that they wouldn't do the same to you if they had a half a chance to do so. In fact, they do so every single day. That's politics. But let's get out of there. Let's think about a percentage tax in supply and demand terms. Quantity, price, we've got demand, we've got supply. This is our underlying economic reality. What is the marginal cost and the marginal benefit of this situation? And now this is going to be a lot easier to think about with the algebra. So A plus B QS and C minus D QD. Make sure I'm doing it still the same system. Great. So what happens if we throw a tax into this scenario? Well, it's going to have the effect of pushing a gap between these two, right? So the price that the seller gets versus the price that the buyer pays of their own money. So we're going to have our usual gap like we've got with any old tax. But now what we're going to have is, here is P, and now instead of P plus some flat tax, we're going to have P times 1 plus some tax rate. Right? So that's not terribly different looking, but really it boils down to, this is going to be P plus P times T. Right? The price you pay plus some percentage of that price in the form of taxes. Now, we've talked about this before. We could, if we wanted, say this is P and then this is going to be some percentage of that price, right? So you get the price and then you pull the taxes out of that. So if we said, for example, the price includes 30% of itself is taxes. Of every $10 you pay, $3 is taxes. We would say, here's the price, and then we would say this is 70% of the after-tax price. That 70% is the money that the seller gets to keep. We could do that, but I'm just going to do it like this. So we use our graph to match up the figures to the appropriate points in our system, and then we rearrange so that we can do our usual setting things equal and solving procedure. So it's going to be the price on the demand side that matters. So it's no longer going to be P equals C minus D times QD. It's going to be P times 1 plus T equals all that stuff. Now, in this case, we could rearrange, go to Q, right? We could find what is the Q that gives you this, and what is the Q that gives you this when we multiply some price. And that might be the way we want to do this. Let's see. So if we set P equal to P, actually no, we're going to stick with the P's because we're going to be eliminating the P by setting them equal. And then we're going to be solving for something in terms of Q. And that's going to give us this Q. We'll call this Q super T. And we can use the same formula to get what I'm going to call Q star, where the taxes are 0. So we've got our supply, we're going to leave alone, right? They're just dealing with the price. But then they have to mark up the price, which means that we're moving up along the demand curve, we're falling in terms of quantity, we're moving down the supply curve as a result. But we're thinking of the seller's price as the price, right? And the price after tax as some percentage above that. So how do we get rid of this? Well, we just divide by 1 plus t, and that's going to leave us with P equals A plus BQ, right? We are going to have the same Q, so I'm going to call this QT instead of quantity supplied. This is our quantity given a tax. And this is going to equal, well, price equals C minus DQ all over 1 plus T. C minus DQ, now QT, all over 1 plus T. And this P doesn't really matter anymore. We're really dealing with these two formulas. All right, so we want to get the Q alone. How are we going to do that? Do I want to get rid of that 1 plus T? Let's start with that. That seems like a sensible enough thing. So we'll say 1 plus T times, don't forget your parentheses, A plus BQ. I'm going to be lazy and stop putting the T here. I know I'm dealing with the T. I'll put it back on at the very end. So this is C minus D times Q. Cool. So this 1 times all of that, and then T times all of that. So we've got A plus BQ plus AT plus BQT. All right, now I got to be sure I don't accidentally lose anything. This is all equal to C minus DQ. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the C. So minus C minus C. And let me just highlight my A's, or sorry, my Q's. Can we see that? We can kind of see that on the video. I can't see it very well in this room because the light is kind of yellow, but we'll be fine. I'll just look up when I need to. So we're going to move the Q's over here. So what do we got? We got a BQ and we got a BQT. So minus BQ minus BQT minus BQ minus BQT. Good. All right, so we've taken care of this. We've taken care of this. We've taken care of this. And so what have we got? We've got an A plus C plus AT on this side equals, this is all minus, I'm going to factor out that Q. I'm going to factor out a negative Q. And then that way I'm adding D plus B plus BT. Cool. All right, so far so good. Nothing glaring jumping out at me. So if I divide both sides, I'm going to keep this a negative Q just for now. Equals A plus C plus, this is a C, plus AT all over D plus B plus BT. All right, so far so good. A plus B, yes, we're kind of rotating based on the value of the supply curve. That makes sense. So if A gets big, right, this quantity, let's see, what's going to happen? Now, let's just keep walking through. Let's get rid of this negative sign. So this is QT. If we multiply both sides by -1, what's that going to be? We're going to have just minus I'm just going to keep it like this, a plus c plus at, all over d plus b plus bt. All right, now let's double check something. So this, I feel like I must have lost a negative sign somewhere. C minus d, that's right. C minus d, that's minus dq. We subtract that c, we're left with a minus dq. That's a bq. That's positive, that's positive. This all looks fine. Let's take a quick look back. We should have c minus a. Right, so is there a minus c? Minus c. Ah, ha, ha, ha. This is good. All right. This is an easy mistake to make. A minus c, not a plus c. So let's just put a minus sign in there just to make it clear. A minus c. There we go. I don't think I can get away with calling this a happy little accident. But we've got, now I'm going to bring this minus through. So minus a, minus minus c is positive c. Minus plus at is minus at, all over d plus b plus bt. All right, so we found q. Now, here's the cool thing about solving this way. Basically, this approach boils down to we set up our system and then we say, hey, we're going to mess with one of these prices just a little bit. So in this case, we mess with the price by saying on the demand side, it's going to be the price multiplied by some tax, right? So 115% if we've got a 15% tax. And then we do a little bit of arithmetic to get back to P equals something and P equals something so that we can set those somethings equal to each other and solve down to find Q. All right, so we found Q, and even better, we have found that if T is 0, we get C minus A over D plus B, which is what we got the old way, right? So we've solved both of these at once. Now we've already solved this the one way, but if we had solved it this way the first time, we would have saved ourselves a little bit of effort, right? So now we can do things like ask, well, what's the dead weight loss? Well, we know that this dead weight loss is going to be delta Q, the change in quantity, times the tax, right? In this case, that tax is going to be P times T, right? So $100 times 8% tax means 100 times 0.08 gives us an $8 gap, right? Or whatever the tax is, we don't need to know the specific number. The formula is some percentage of the underlying sticker price. So we've got the height, we've got the base, we divide by 2 and we get what we need. So let's go ahead and find delta Q in this case. So this is delta Q for when we have the tax as not a per unit tax that shifts us down like this, but as a percentage tax. Right now we're dealing with it like this. If we were to deal with it from the other side, we deal with it like this. And in that case, we'd be thinking of slightly different values of t, right? So if we're coming from 100, let's say this is 100 and this is 90, just to make up some hard numbers here. 10 over 90, that is a little bit more than 10%. 10 out of 100, that's exactly 10%. So if we start from this price and ask, what is the price when we pull the taxes out, that tax rate is going to be a little bit different just because of the order that we're doing, right? We're getting some percentage of 100 versus some percentage of 90. But still the same amount as long as we've got the same gap between them. All right, so delta Q, what is that? Well, that is going to be the Q when T is 0. So that is C minus A over D plus B, which is the same as this, just we plug in 0. Well, that's C minus A minus 0, D plus B times 0. It's the same thing. Minus this one where we don't put in a 0 for the tax, over d plus b plus bt. And we could, if we wanted, we could think about what is the change in the dead weight loss, right? If we go from this tax to a new tax, right? In that case, we would include this minus AT plus BT stuff in there. We'll do that in just a sec. How long is this video going? Maybe I'll take a look at that off screen. If it's interesting, I'll put it into the next video. So what can we do with this? Let's try and simplify to the extent we can. Well, we got a C minus a C. Ooh, let's see. Can we do this? Because we got this BT over here. This is going to be a little bit annoying. And I don't want to try and figure this out on the air. So let's stop here. I'll take a look at this, and then we'll keep moving on.